This is a proud production of ITM Media. Happy Daytona week, everybody out there in Ramblin' About Racing Nation. Matt Beamer here, flying solo today. However, later on in the episode, we're going to have Jon Garrett, who is an ARCA Series driver, on with us, talking about his racing career and his rise up through the ranks. But I'm glad you're joining us. The Super Bowl's finally over. Football is over. For all you football fans out there, you might as well turn on NASCAR and tune in to Ramblin' About Racing, weekly racing podcast here on the Belly Up Sports Network. It's great to be here. Daytona week is finally here. I've been looking forward to this since the checkered flag fell at Phoenix in November. I know everybody else out there has as well. And this is going to be one of those episodes. I mean, unfortunately, Preston, Charlie, and Austin cannot make it tonight. That's such a bummer, but because we always look forward to this time of the year. We always look forward to Daytona, more specifically, whether you're on the way to Daytona Beach to enjoy the festivities down there for the Daytona 500 the whole weekend, or you're just watching from around the country. It doesn't matter. Hope you enjoyed this weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. I have a feeling we're going to see stuff we haven't seen before at Daytona. Everybody in the Cup Series especially are used to these cars with the new teams and the new drivers in different places. It's going to be interesting to shake up nonetheless here. I am at a loss for words of what to expect this coming up weekend here. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it. I've been looking forward to this, like I said, since the drop of the checkered flag at Phoenix. I wanted also take this opportunity, if you happen to show up for my daughter's first birthday, which was last Saturday, thank you so much. Caroline and I couldn't have been happier with the turnout that we had. Everything went well. We both just appreciated so much the love and support that we have from family and friends here around the area. One of those things where if you do have kids, you know exactly what I'm saying. Once they hit that 1 year mark, it is such a awesome thing seeing that, and can't wait for the next year. And then the next year, hopefully time slows down a little slower, because this first year flew by fast with the daughter. But I'm glad everyone is doing well out there. I hope everyone is doing well, I should say. I'm doing well myself. Like I said, just off for the week and getting ready to gear up for Daytona here. Like I said, flying solo, no problem here, because we got Jon Garrett coming on. So we're going to talk to him. We're going to go ahead and switch over to him right now and just listen to what he has to say throughout his racing career. Folks, before we continue on with the start of Season 5 of Ramblin' About Racing, I wanted to remind everyone out there about our online stores at Teespring and Bonfire, where you can find the latest and greatest Ramblin' About Racing gear, such as t-shirts like the one I have on, hoodies, hats, or anyone but lineup exclusively at Bonfire, and so much more. Pint glasses for your beers and everything like that. Just head over to ramblinaboutracing.com under the stores tab, and there you can find the links to both Teespring and Bonfire. Every purchase will help out Ramblin' About Racing, bring you better content and hopefully more content at tracks around the country later on as we get there. So head on over to ramblinaboutracing.com. Links can also be found in the YouTube video below or on your podcast description on your regular podcast platform below. Again, all proceeds help out Ramblin' About Racing, bring you better content in the future.
Hey, man. Hey, man. Hey, man.
Joined here by Jon Garrett, driving a number 66 Chevrolet for Veer Motorsports in the ARCA Series. Jon, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Getting ready to head that direction tomorrow afternoon. We're driving from Athens, Texas. I think it's 15, 16 hours. So
that's a long day.
That is, but, you know, doing a little penny pinching. So we'll get there Wednesday evening sometime. So we'll be good to go.
I hear you. Well, this interview presented by Devos Outdoor Lighting. Make sure to use code Ramblin for 10% off all your Devos Outdoor needs. Devos Outdoor, I should say, .com, or head over to ramblinaboutracing.com. Links could be found under the sponsors tab, and links will also be available on your YouTube and podcast platform. And that's Ramblin for 10% off all your outdoor lighting needs. Now, John, quick question here. Did some research on you before the show, couldn't find a lot, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
That gives us more to talk about here. But saw that you were from Texas, and that's really about it. And you've only raced 3 races in the ARCA Series.
Right.
So let's go back to Texas here.
Okay.
Tell us about your growing up in Texas. You still live there, obviously, I think, just based on what you were saying. Tell us about your childhood and growing up.
Yeah, didn't really grow up around racing. We went to the local dirt track every once in a while. And of course, I was born in the 70s, so grew up watching Cal Yarbrough, Richard Petty, those guys in the 70s and 80s. As far as racing, didn't really, I got involved in 94 at a local dirt track, did some street stock dirt tracking for, 94 till 98, all around Texas. We raced at Devil's Bowl Speedway. I don't know if you heard of that or not. It's a pretty big track, pretty famous track. It's kind of where the Outlaws got started, World of Outlaws. So that's a big half-mile, sticky black dirt track, so it's always fun to drive. After that, ran some touring series, American Race Truck Touring Series on asphalt. Ran that for 5 or 6 years, won a championship, won quite a few races. It was a spec truck series, 305 spec'd out. Everybody pretty much ran the same stuff. But besides that, I've been out of racing probably for 10, 15 years, and got the opportunity to go test at Daytona last January 2022 with Andy Hillenberg, and got the bug from there. It's pretty crazy. I kind of gave up. Everybody's got the dream. I gave up on it. I'm 52. Don't really have the money myself to do this kind of thing, but it's all kind of lined up, and met some people from my past, and just the whole Twitch community, social media community, my local community. Everybody's really just got on board and helping us pull this thing off.
All right, so going back to 394, what were you doing? But I take it I know football is big there in Texas. Were you playing football in high school? Did you have aspirations in maybe NFL, college?
I don't know if my mom's listening, but she didn't let me play football.
No? It's okay. My mom let me play football as well.
I wasn't as big back then either, obviously. No, my brother got an injury when he played some football, and so it was out for me. I was in the band, played the drums. Really just never really was involved with motorsports. My brother kind of got involved. So I guess he kicked me out of football, but maybe he helped me in the racing. He got involved with a local dirt track guy, and I started going out there and hanging out, and like, hey, if he can do this, I can do it, and just kind of went from there.
Okay, so you didn't play football. You were in the marching band, I take it, and that's okay. Crazy thing is, and not a lot of people know that I was in the marching band for a couple of years, played drums as well, was in the percussion section. So there's a commonality right there.
Yeah, right.
And although I don't race, I race iRacing like you do.
Yeah,
that's about the extent of my racing career when it comes to that. But growing up in Texas, you're 94. So was that around the time where you started kind of going, okay, maybe I'll give this a go? With 94, or was it earlier?
94 is when it started. I was going to the track with him every once in a while in probably 90 or 91. I was still in college at that time. Graduated college in 93, moved back to Tyler, Texas, went to work for my dad, and just saw this old, I think it was a 78 Pontiac Grand Prix on the side of the road for $175, and we bought it and turned it into a dirt tracker.
Were you working at the time? What was your major in college? Let's ask
Yeah,
that.
my major was marketing. After I graduated, I went to work for my dad at a computer store in Tyler, Texas. I worked there until 2004. Then we both went to work for crazy story here for American Home Medical, which was owned by Kirby Honeycutt, who is the father of Caden Honeycutt. I don't know if you've heard that name.
No, I haven't. Who is it?
He's an up and comer. He's doing lots of late model stuff, and this year he's running some Craftsman trucks. He's run ARCA in the past. Google his name. You'll be pleasantly surprised.
That's Honeycutt, you said?
Yeah, Caden with a K, Honeycutt.
Caden Honeycutt. Okay, we'll definitely look that up. Maybe have him on the show later on.
Yeah, he would definitely be good.
So your racing career started off in '94. You bought that old beat up 1970 Pontiac, you said, right?
Right.
You went for you put it together. Did you know what you were doing? Did you just kind of just
No, we were clueless. A friend of mine who we had been watching dirt track, they ran late models on dirt. He helped put it together and got us going. We just kind of learned as we went. And then when we went to the trucks on asphalt, we started over again because we didn't know anything about that either. But we, met a lot of people and learned a lot of stuff. And in a couple of years, we were doing well, running races, running up front, being competitive. And as far as the ARCA thing, Andy at Fast Track Racing, they prep and take care of the cars for us. So I don't know a lot there either on setting those things up.
Yeah. What was the toughest part about learning? Because you didn't grow up racing, and it would be kind of the equivalent to me jumping in there without iRacing and just jumping in head first in the deep end, as some might look at it like that. What was the toughest thing to figure out? Was it the setup of the vehicle? Was it the prep of the vehicle? Was it the actual driving? Was it etiquette? What was the toughest part to learn? Because about early 20s, you're expected to be already blazing a trail towards wherever you want to go in auto, whether it's open wheel, stock car, you name it. You were a late starter to the game.
Right.
This thing to learn, because you got these younger guys who are probably just whooping you and saying, "Who's this old guy coming in here?" I mean, 20 isn't old. Early 20s isn't old.
Right.
What was the toughest thing to wrap your head around as you started?
Well, the local dirt track stuff, I really wasn't the oldest. I mean, everybody's probably 20s and up. As we got to the trucks, they were getting a little younger because I was almost 30 by then. But I guess the biggest thing to learn would be to learning the setups. Or if I didn't know the setups, finding people that could do the right setups, get the car handling, and then being patient on the track and figuring out what certain drivers were doing, who were aggressive, who wasn't, and being around at the end, surviving each race.
And going in from there, it sounds like it took a while for you to get to this level you're at now in the ARCA Series, which is right there. I mean, you're right there knocking on the door of NASCAR, whether it's Truck, Xfinity, or Cup. You're right there knocking on the door. But that was a heck of a time to get there.
Yeah,
did you devote
30 years?
Did you devote all? I take it you didn't devote all your time, but there was other things that happened throughout your life that, okay, I got to put this racing thing on hold. I mean, priorities change. Families, wives come in, children come into play. I mean, do you have a wife and kids? Or?
Yeah, I've been married. Be 31 years this year.
Congratulations! Wow.
Got 2 kids, a daughter will be 31, and a son who will be 27 this year. There was really never a time that said, "Hey, I've got to stop racing and go do things with the family." It was more that just circumstances happened that way. Funding and stuff just kind of played out when it got time to go do things with the kids when they got into high school and stuff like that. So it just kind of worked out that way, and the same way things are working out now that I'm getting back into. That's kind of a little story to be told too, how I met all the right people to be in this situation.
Yeah, well, let's hear it. I mean, I want to hear.
That's what you're here for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, you couldn't find much about me, so
right. And I'm curious because you're relatively, before you followed us on Twitter here at the show, I've never heard of Jon Garrett.
Right.
But an ARCA Series driver who follows the show, and okay, well, let's get him on and talk to him. And again, like I said, doing research is like, man, there's really not a lot out there about Jon Garrett, except maybe local news articles saying he's finally made it to Daytona.
Yeah, just all the local stuff,
Right.
Before last April, you're probably not going to find much.
Right. And unfortunate, and that's unfortunate, but I mean, it seemed to happen fast when it happened. So let's go back a few years before you're even thinking about loading up the haul or going to Daytona. What was the situation like with your family? I mean, was it kind of like racing's a hobby or racing's a potential career at that point? Were you working?
Yeah, it was kind of a hobby, and always with the dream of wanting to move up the ladder and do bigger and better things. But it kind of died in 2006, 2007. Just, I didn't know the right people, and I certainly didn't have the money. So it was okay. I got to race. Everybody didn't get to race at any level. So that was cool. My kids were getting of age, doing things in high school. My son was playing basketball. My daughter's doing things. So it was okay. I had things occupied. Got into a new business that kept me occupied. I print T-shirts. I am part owner of Fort Worth Screen Printing. So if you need T-shirts and embroidery. Oh. And that's kind of what's triggered me into this racing. I used to race those trucks at a track in Central Texas at Thunderhill Raceway in Austin, close to Austin. And there was a guy by the name of Mark Curry that raced there. And we knew each other. We didn't race against each other. But in 2019, I saw Bailey Curry in one of the truck lineups. I'm like, let me put two and two together and figure this out. So I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, how can I get involved? So I started helping Bailey a little bit at Rick Ware Racing. He was working there and running occasional cup cars for him, which led to me helping Rick Ware Racing and getting my sticker on lots of cars. So that whole relationship has kind of just moved along and grown since 2019. Well, a guy that helped Bailey coming up, and he's helped a lot of other drivers, Chris Busher, Kyle Weatherman. His name's Michael Harper. I don't know if a lot of people know him, but he's helped a ton of drivers get to where they're at. I print T-shirts for his monster truck show. And one day I'm delivering T-shirts to him on the side of the interstate because he's on his way to a show and we're late getting them to him. So anyway, we meet. He's like, hey, man, you should go do that Daytona test in ARCA next year. Like, what? They're gonna let me get in a ARCA car. I don't have any real experience at that level. He's like, yeah, you got a good enough resume. Put me on there and you'll be good to go. So that's kind of how that started. Next thing you know, I'm driving around Daytona at 180 whatever miles an hour. And then we start rounding up funding to try to go to Talladega in April. And then that triggered a guy that I used to race with in the trucks. His name is Lane Moore. He owns Venture Foods in Oklahoma. He came to the race. After the race, he's like, hey, dude, you always wanted to race NASCAR, but I've always wanted to own a team. So here we go. We went and bought a Jeff Spraker ARCA car. Then we went and ran Pocono and Kansas. And here we are now running the full season.
I mean, it seemed like it happened fast.
Oh, yeah. From the test till now, there's been so many things that have happened.
Right. Now, tell us about, I see the Talladega sign behind your car there at Talladega. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was your first ARCA race.
Right. First ARCA race. I had done the test in January, but first race.
And did you go from dirt straight to ARCA, or did you have any asphalt experience between?
The trucks that I ran in the early 2000s were truck, but they were all short trucks. I mean, half miles, quarter miles. We ran the road course at Texas Motor Speedway, but never up on the big track. But yeah, no big track experience.
And then they throw you right into
They did. If you get
Talladega.
Yeah, if you make it through the Daytona test without making a fool of yourself or doing anything stupid, then you're approved to run any track on the schedule for ARCA. And you have to send in an application and a resume before that test. I mean, Joe Blow can't go there, jump in the car, and go make laps. There's an approval process.
Right, there goes my chance right there. The only resume I have is iRacing, and needless to say, you probably don't want to see my I rating right there. You might not want to race with me on there later on. So the test, you tested Daytona. Did they come directly right after you got out of the car and stopped on pit road and say, "We'll talk contract down the road," or was it a waiting period after the test?
No, well, I mean, Andy had rides available for Talladega. It's just a matter of finding the funding, and once I'm approved, it was up to me to go find the funding and be able to race. But as far as being approved by ARCA, I never really got a call or a letter or anything. I assume they told Andy I was good because I didn't, I did everything by the book and what they wanted me to do. Didn't make any mistakes, so that was all good.
And then your first race at Talladega, tell us about that. You get there to Talladega. Let's run through the weekend there because I'm curious to know. That was last year, 2022, correct?
Right. April 2022.
April. So take us through that weekend. Your first ARCA Series race. I mean, what are you feeling? What's going on? What's your wife thinking? What are your kids thinking?
I mean, yeah, they're all excited that I get to do it. Obviously concerned. But, they trust me to make good decisions. A quick story about my wife. When we were going to the test at Daytona, she was asking questions. She's like, "So there's going to be an instructor in there with you?" I'm like, "No, it's not a school." Then she said, "Were you going to be on the track by yourself?" I said, "No, there'll be other cars out there, but, they'll let me out by myself, so I'm not in a pack or anything." She's like, "Okay." So she's up on the hauler watching, and I go out, and the spotter releases me a little earlier than he should have. Well, I go coming off turn 2 in the back stretch. I look in the mirror, and there's a whole pack of cars coming. So I'm like, I'm not going around here again on the apron, so I'm just going to ease out there and get into the pack. And it all worked out. They went by me, and I fell in behind them and let them go because as much as I wanted to be in the draft, I knew I didn't need to be there. So maybe that was some of the things that ARCA said, that makes him smart. He can think. But anyway, that was totally the opposite of what I had told my wife was going to happen. But
and your wife's okay. I mean, I take it she is okay. You're racing the full series in the ARCA Series, but when you finally got the call saying, "Hey, you're good for Talladega," what was her reaction to it? I could only imagine yours is just like, I made it. It's happening.
Yeah, for sure. If she was apprehensive at all, she's never told me about it. I mean, she seemed to be happy about it and excited that I finally get to live out my dream.
Right, and now you're racing at Daytona. Tell us, I mean, not just testing at Daytona, but racing at Daytona coming up here this weekend. That's huge right there. But going back to that April weekend right there at Talladega, I mean, you got to. Let's just get qualifying and then the race. Let's talk about those things. To qualifying, I don't know where you qualified. I didn't see it on the stats.
Yeah, actually, they didn't have qualifying for that race. We just had practice.
Okay.
Which we had battery and starter issues, so I didn't get a lot of laps. Maybe got 4 or 5 laps in.
Oh man!
And then based on points, I was supposed to start maybe 8th, which we all knew that was a bad idea. So right. I went to the back of the field at the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of like an iRacer that starts right up front and causes the big. You don't want to be that guy.
Exactly. No.
Especially your first time out there. But take us through that. Did you go like when the green flag dropped? Did you just drop to the rear slowly, or did you start?
I went with 1 to go. We went through the pits, and then there was probably 7 or 8 of us that made our way to the back that way.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was on 1 to go that we went through the pits and they went around. But yeah, green flag dropped. There wasn't much happening. Just kind of fell in line. The car wasn't super great. It wouldn't suck up, and maybe that was on purpose so I wouldn't be in the middle of that mess. But we stayed on the lead lap until the halfway break, Then when I came in, I killed it on entry to the pit box, and
Right.
those battery and starter issues, here they came back. So
Wow.
we couldn't get it cranked, couldn't get it pushed off, and then finally I went 2 laps down, and a push truck got me going, so I got to start the race again. But it seems that all of that happened for a reason, because the group of guys that I was racing with, I was actually leading like a 5-car draft before the halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
Those same guys got into a huge wreck after the halfway point. So if I hadn't had those little issues, I might have been in the middle of that. And that's the wreck where they had to cut the 69 guy out of the car, Scott Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, had to cut him out. He broke his leg.
Oh.
But yeah, so
Okay.
I was far enough behind that I didn't get a scratch on the car the whole race.
That's good. I mean, for your first time out, that's good. And then I know you raced Kansas that same year. That was those were 2 of your 3 races. And then you said you raced at Pocono. What was more challenging? Because I got to know, because I've been to both Talladega and Pocono as far as a spectator point of view. I would say Talladega is more stressful as far as big wreck, but Pocono's more technical as far as downshifting, and then it's just a long drawn out. It isn't pack racing. It's just go.
Talladega's I'd say easy to drive, but it's so many things are out of your hand. So you could be in a wreck, and it's not going to be your fault a lot of the times. Pocono, yeah, that was when we had bought our own car, still with Fast Track, but we owned the car. Going down into turn 1 at however fast we go and just tap the brakes and turn left. That was interesting. And the tunnel turn was pretty crazy, but we did okay. We finished 14th. There's not much shift in there. You don't in the ARCA. You don't shift like they used to. But yeah, that was a fun race. I also avoided a wreck there. There's a big wreck in the tunnel turn. We just gladly far enough behind it that we made it through okay. I did have to do a little dodging, but yeah, that race ended up good. Got 14th, so we're progressing there. 21st and 14th, and then Kansas, we had a nice solid run, stayed out of trouble again, and finished second. Not second. I'm sorry, 10th.
Oh, you see, you got me going.
I got you.
A top 10 in your first 3 starts is nothing to scoff at, in my opinion, especially doing that. And I know you're a big eye racer. We've talked to a lot of drivers on here, like Jesse Awuji and Ryan Barnhill. Austin Terrio was on last season. iRacing seems to be big for development sim racing and simulator time now. Did that help out at all? Did you run Talladega, Pocono, and Kansas on the sim, or you just iRacing tonight running Daytona on the sim? I mean, does that prep you? Does that help? I mean,
yeah, for sure. I mean, you'd be surprised how close, if it's a recent scan of the track, how close it is to real life. The bumps and everything that are there, that's super realistic. So yeah, that helped me a lot with those tracks. And yeah, I was just running trucks at Daytona, finished second all ago. That's why I was late to this event. But I haven't found the car that most closely resembles a real ARCA car, because the ARCA car on iRacing is not exactly the same as what we race in real life. I'd say maybe the Xfinity car is a little closer on iRacing.
Okay. So running a full season this year, when did you get that call to say, hey, you're running full season this year? How did that transpire?
I mean, it was towards the end of the year. Me and Lane Moore, we just said, hey, if we can, go find the equipment, I think we can pull it off. So after the Kansas race, we went and looked at some equipment at Brett Holmes Racing, and we purchased a couple cars from him. So we've got 3 cars, 3 engines. So I think we're pretty much ready to go on that end. So, and those are good cars, the Brett Holmes cars, of course, because he wins races in them, or did.
Right.
So it's going to be up to me to learn a lot. I'll have a steep learning curve at most of these tracks. So at least I know that I'll have good equipment under me. And
Right.
I think, we have a goal of being top 5 in points and winning Rookie of the Year. So I don't think it's out of question. I don't think it's crazy.
No, and I think a lot of people will then know your name,
For
and
sure.
it'll be pushed out there a lot more than it is now. And it's like just one of those things, you're just finally breaking the surface, and that's it. You worked so long to get here, and now, I mean, hard work does pay off, and
For sure.
dedication to the craft does pay off. What, looking at this season from Daytona on, what track are you most looking forward to racing at, and what track are you just looking at and going, I hope I don't make a fool of myself at this track?
I'm pretty confident at all of them. I don't think there's any of them that I just do not want to go to. Like I said, I have some dirt experience. I have a little bit of road course experience. I'd say I'm looking forward first to going back to Talladega with a more competitive car. But again, there's so many things that are out of your control as a driver there. It's just kind of what happens. After that, I would say Kansas. I would be looking most forward to there because I raced there in the fall and had a decent showing. And I have a much better car that we're taking for that race, so I feel good about it.
All right, and then the track you're not most looking forward to?
I don't know that there is one really. There's not one that really just pops up. I'm looking forward to going to all of them, actually.
I mean, that's a sign of confidence right there. If you're just looking forward to everything, because there's always one track, it seems like, with drivers, it's like, I cannot stand this place.
Right. And most of them I've never been to or never even run them on iRacing because they're not all on iRacing. So
right.
Maybe it's a little bit of ignorance. I don't know, to not want to go to this track. But no, I'm really looking forward to all of them, even the dirt tracks, because I've got some dirt track experience.
Right.
I know it's not the same, but it's still too heavy stock cars throwing them around a dirt track. So I think we'll do well there. Plus, with Andy Hillenberg, a former ARCA champion, on my pit box, he's going to be my spotter also. I'm going to get a ton of experience from him. And I really think we're going to do pretty good.
And that leads me to this question here. Your team there in Texas is based in Texas. A lot of other teams are based in North Carolina. Does that have a disadvantage, or does that help?
Well, everything's run through Fast Track Racing, which is there in Charlotte. They're right next to the track. So Veer Motorsports we're a race team, but everything is there in Charlotte. Everything's done at Andy's track.
Okay, so
Andy's shop.
You just live there in Texas. You're not
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not working on any new cars in Texas at this point.
Are there plans in the future to maybe move to North Carolina, closer to the racetrack, closer in that hub around Morrisville, Charlotte? That is racing.
You never know. It just kind of depends how this year goes.
I mean, because lifetime in Texas, that's got to be tough for a Texan to say, I'm going to uproot in my 50s and take my wife to the East Coast, because that's a whole new world over there from Texas to North Carolina.
For sure.
It can't be easy. So your wife, is she going to be traveling with you this whole season?
Yeah, I think she plans on making all the races. She was a school teacher and retired a couple of years ago, so that kind of works out well. Though she does work for me now.
What's she do for you?
She works at Athens Screen Printing in the embroidery department.
Okay.
Those teachers' retirement checks aren't great.
Yeah, teachers are underpaid. So are police, fire, and EMS right there.
For sure.
If you have to ask me, my opinion, but I'm biased. I'm a firefighter on a regular career. But that's awesome, man. This is going to be, I think, really a breakout season. You sounds like you have the confidence, of course, definitely because of Hillenberg behind you. You got good equipment. The only thing stopping you right now, I feel like, is bad luck and yourself. Right.
Yeah, just kind of the unknown of what I don't know at these tracks, and bad luck, things that are out of my control. But for sure, we're looking forward to it. We're also realistic. I don't think I'm going to go out there and win 5 races. But Andy has said, it's possible we could win a race. Just depends. And he's super pumped because the last few years, he's had all kinds of drivers in those cars, just trying to keep them funded and keeping his program going. So he is super excited to have one person in one car for the entire season, so that they can just focus on one thing. And the whole team there is pretty pumped about it.
What do you think makes you? I mean, I'm not trying to down you or anything, but what do you think makes you different as a driver, as that new guy coming in, that driver going to be racing full time in 2023, different than those other drivers in Andy's highs? And I know I'm not trying to have you speak for him.
Right.
What do you think sets you apart from the rest of the guys over there?
As far as the drivers, I don't know. Just that I'm going to be there every race. And to this point, I haven't done anything stupid. I've had 4 chances, I guess, to test in 3 races, and I just go out there and I don't drive the car past the limits, and I don't do anything stupid. I'm not over aggressive. To this point, I haven't got a scratch on the car. Knock on wood. That doesn't mean I won't, but that's kind of how I've always driven throughout my racing career. Is take what I can get. Don't be super over aggressive, and I generally had a lot of respect from the other drivers on the track, and I think I gained a lot of respect last year from the different drivers, and even the head ARCA official. I can't think of his name, but he came over after the Kansas race and told me that I did a good job. So that meant a lot.
Yeah, peer acceptance is definitely big, and I bet in motorsports it's even bigger because one slip up on your end could take out 5-10 people.
Right, for sure.
Just like that. I mean, even the best of the best, I feel, mess up. So I feel like it's a stressful thing in the sense of I don't want to mess up, but if you do, it's like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it, But that's just kind of the ignorance and the outside looking in right there on that part.
For sure.
So tell us about your sponsors here in the 2023 season.
Yeah, the main funding comes from Venture Foods and Fort Worth Screen Printing and Athens Screen Printing. Like I said, Lane Moore, my Veer Motorsports partner, and his son Logan, they own the Venture Foods. I think 3 or 4 locations in Oklahoma. For Daytona, I mean, we don't have a specific sponsor for the entire year. We're kind of piecing it together. And for Daytona, we had a group of local East Texas friends that came together and got on the hood. It's called the Camping Crew. This is how we roll. So they'll be on the hood. So I'm super excited about that because I'm sure that they're going to do some more throughout the year. And I've just picked up, little sponsors here and there that have helped us fund Daytona and a couple of races down the schedule.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know you're excited to go. It's getting late over there in Texas, so we're going to go ahead. And you got, what, a 15-hour drive ahead of you before you get into Daytona.
Right.
And get to
work. Heading out tomorrow.
Yeah, heading out tomorrow with your wife. And are your kids going, or are they?
Yeah, they're going.
And family affair. I tell you what, John, before we leave, I love to ask this question here to all the drivers that are on our show. If racing wasn't in the books, if you weren't doing racing at all, if you weren't signed up for ARCA, if you never went to that dirt track in the early 90s and the bug bit you, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Honestly, I have no idea. Because something I didn't touch on is the current job and the business that I'm part owner in. Yeah. I met the guy, Greg Davis, who owns it, when I was truck racing. And when I didn't have a job in the early 2000s, he's the one that came to me and said, hey, could you go to Fort Worth and help straighten out this business? So without racing, I'm totally clueless as to where I would be. I mean, I'm sure I would be doing something. I really don't know how to answer that question, except that I do not know what I would be doing.
It's funny how many drivers say that, because once the bug bites you, it seems like I can't think of anything else I'd rather do than that. I mean, it's crazy. I like asking that question. From one, a lot of drivers don't get asked that.
Yeah, and it's not even that it's about the bug, but it's that since 1994, racing has intermingled into every other part of my life. My job a couple of times actually. So I just don't know what would be happening if I wasn't involved in racing, because it's opened up so many other relationships.
Right. And that's quite all right. I mean, just curious to know, because
I wish I had a better answer for you.
No, I love the answers. We had Howie DeSavino on last year, and he said he'd be a farmer. He'd just be a farmer. And it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just crazy just how many people think differently of that, and it's okay. I find
if I quote had it to do over again, I might have moved to Charlotte in the early, before I even started racing, just to be involved in racing. But again, maybe all of this other stuff wouldn't have happened. So I guess it's all worked out the way it's supposed to, they say.
It does, John. Well, again, it's getting late over there. It's getting late here. We got a big day tomorrow. Be sure to look for John, number 66 Chevrolet for Veer Motorsports, on the track at Daytona, not just for this weekend here at Daytona, but for the rest of the ARCA Series season. Track him, follow him on social media. Before we leave here, how can the fans get in touch with you and follow you? And
you can find me on almost every social media platform except TikTok, I guess. I don't think they want to see me doing TikTok or anything like that. But I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if you just Google Jon Garrett ARCA Racing, weirdly I pop up.
Okay.
So yeah, you can find me on all those different platforms, and I'm pretty interactive on there, as you know. That's how I found you, and you found me. Yep. So yeah, feel free to follow me and shoot me a message, and I'll be sure to get back with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you on track this Sunday. Be safe, not only driving there at Daytona, but be safe going to and from Daytona as well. Looking forward to seeing you on track. And if you happen to win Daytona, I'm not saying it's Ramblin About Racin's, magic that's going to work there, but it might be Ramblin About Racin's magic. You might have to come on every week before race day.
For sure. I'll be on here every week before the race when that happens.
All right, John. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Good. Best of luck out there at Daytona. Can't wait to see you on track. And anything else you would like to say before we wrap it up here?
No, I think that's it. Just thanks to everybody that's been supporting me. Businesses and people that I really have no ties to that have helped support me financially and bought my T-shirts and stuff like that. It's just, I appreciate all the help. It takes a lot of people to get you to one of these races. It is super expensive, even at the level that we're doing it. So just thanks to all the fans and all my supporters.
All right. Well, John, best of luck again. I know I keep saying that, but best of luck. Can't wait to see you on track. And we will talk to you later, man.
Okay. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to remind everyone out there about a partner that has been with Ramblin About Racing since we were called In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast, and since we were on the Unhinged Sports Network, and that is Fanatics. Fanatics is your one-stop shop for everything NASCAR, for your favorite drivers' T-shirts, hoodies, hats, die-cast, and so much more. But it isn't just NASCAR. I get all my Alabama Crimson Tide gear from there, as well as my Washington Capitals gear there as well. One-stop shop for everything you need, any type of sport you need. Links can be found under the sponsor tab at ramblinaboutracing.com, as well as under the podcast description and YouTube description, depending on whether you're watching or listening to Ramblin About Racing. Head over there right now and get your favorite sports gear you need for this upcoming season.
White flag, white flag. White flag, white flag. White flag. 1 lap to go. 1 lap right here.
Final thoughts on this week's episode of Ramblin' About Racing. That was Jon Garrett. Make sure to check him out on track this weekend at the Daytona International Speedway, where he'll be racing the number 66 Chevrolet once again, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed that interview. Now we come to our final thoughts of the episode, where we just start wrapping it up here. Hope you enjoyed it, whether, like I said at the top of the show, you're on the way to Daytona or you're just staying at home and enjoying the race there from your living room. Really do hope you have a happy Daytona race day coming up here. We got a few things to cover here before we go. Number one, make sure to sign up for the fantasy racing league that we host here at Ramblin' About Racing. Links can be found on the YouTube description and podcast description below. Sign up before Daytona. At the end of the season, the winner, if you're not a host of the show, I should say, that is myself, Preston, Charlie, and Austin, will get a $200 Amazon gift card right in time for Christmas. It's just building up and building up here. So it's free to enter. Make sure you sign up for it. Tell your friends and family about it. The more, the merrier when it comes to that. Let me get a quick update here on how many people we have here in the Fantasy League. If I could pull it up here. Here we go. We have 14 people that are signed up at the moment for the Ramblin' About Racing. Make sure to sign up for that. It will be a lot of fun. It's free. Like I said, no skin off your back. Let's just say that. Let's keep it simple here. Let's keep it simple as a show. Now we get into this week in NASCAR. This week in NASCAR, we go to February 15th, 1953. 40 Flock runs out of fuel on the final lap as Bill Blair drives to victory in the NASCAR Grand National event on the Daytona Beach Road Course at Daytona. It is the first NASCAR Grand National race to be determined by a final lap pass, and that happened February 15th, 1953, at where we're going to go this week in Daytona Beach, or more so Daytona International Speedway. Some of us kind of wish maybe it was back on the beach, but then we see Bristol dirt and we realize, no, it probably shouldn't be on the beach. That would be a cluster and a half. Upcoming races for this weekend. Fridays, February 17th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. You're going to have the Truck Series race from Daytona, the Craftsman Truck Series race. Saturday, February 18th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1 as well. The Daytona at the Xfinity race from Daytona. I don't know why I tried to fancy that up here. That's my bad right there. And in the coup de grace here, the Daytona 500, Sunday, February 19th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox, and that is going to be the Daytona 500. And those were your start times for the Daytona races, and I can't wait for them again. Here come the picks from the crew here at Ramblin' About Racing for those races at Daytona. Charlie Hercus has for Trucks Enfinger, Xfinity Jones, and Cup Gregson. I think he's going out on a limb for Gregson, but if he happens to do it, next race we go to, I probably won't buy him. He probably won't have to buy any beer. Let's just put that on the record right now. If Noah Gregson wins, no beer for Charlie. But I'm going to say that there odds are he's going to have to buy his own beer the next race we go to. For Austin, trucks are going to be Corey Heim, Xfinity Chandler Smith, and Cup Ryan Blaney. Came so close in 2020. We'll see. We'll see if Ryan Blaney could do it, but I'm not looking at that right now. Here's what I got for trucks. I'm going to have to go with the veteran Matt Crafton there in the Thor Sports Toyota. For the Xfinity Series, Hemrick. I'm going to say Daniel Hemrick is going to win. And for the Cup Series in his new ride, Kyle Busch finally gets that final crown in the crown and wins the Daytona 500 for his new team, Richard Childress Racing, who hasn't won since Austin Dillon's victory a number of years ago. But I feel like it's going to be Kyle Busch's year. We're going to keep track of those all year, and by the time the end of the season comes around, we'll see who has the most victories or the closest finishes right there, the average finish throughout the fields there. So there are picks. Let us know what your picks are using hashtag what do you think ITM. All right, folks, thank you for joining us here for this episode of Ramblin' About Racing. I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Make sure to tune in next week where we talk to another ARCA Series driver, Braden Lester, looking forward to talking to him about his experience there at the Daytona International Speedway following the conclusion of Speed Weeks for the ARCA Series. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up on this episode of Ramblin' About Racing. Thank you so much for tuning in to us, whether you're on your regular podcast platform or on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel and your regular podcast platform to stay up to date on what's going on here from Ramblin' About Racing. I'd like to thank our sponsors for the show, Devos Outdoor Lighting, Extreme Sim Racing, Fanatics, and Stand Up to Cancer, for all they do, not only for us here at Ramblin' About Racing, but for what they do for Belly Up Sports as well. Make sure to follow Ramblin' About Racing on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube for the latest and greatest from the world of auto racing and to see what's going on in our lives as well. For Charlie Hercus, Chuck 8384, Preston Lood, P_Luda, Austin Reeves, Austin_Reeves6. I'm Matt Beamer, MBeamer22 on Twitter. All those can be found at ramblinaboutracing.com. Stay safe and have a good rest of your week, and happy Daytona race day.